Hello and welcome to everyone. I am Preeti Sharma from Kendriya Vidyalaya JNU. Today we are going to discuss chapter 1, that is Nature and Purpose of Business of class 11th of Business Studies. About this chapter we have already discussed few topics in previous class, that is human activities and its types, economic activities and its types, characteristics of business and objectives of business. Today we will cover the remaining chapter, the classification of business activities. Business activities can be divided into two ways. First is industry and another is commerce. Then industry can further be divided into three ways, that is primary industry, secondary industry and tertiary industry. In the same way, commerce can also be divided in two ways, that is trade and auxiliaries to trade. We will discuss this in detail. Now let us first of all understand the meaning of industry. What is industry? Industry refers to economic activities connected with conversion of resources into useful goods. Or there is another way also to define an industry. Industry can also be defined as a collection of firms producing similar nature of items. For example, textile industry. Now, industry can further be divided into primary industry, secondary industry and tertiary industry. So, let us understand the meaning of primary industry. Primary industry, as its name suggests, primary industry is primarily engaged in extraction of natural resources, production of natural resources and development of living organisms. Now, the primary industry again has its first is extractive industry and second is genetic industry. So, what is extractive industry? Extractive industry is basically connected with extraction of natural resources. That means extractive industry provide useful material or raw material to the manufacturing industry for the further improvement or to make finished goods. For example, fishing, farming, etc. are the examples of extractive industries. The second type of primary industry is genetic industry. Genetic industry is connected with breeding of plants and animals for the further reproduction, like poultry farming. So, we can say the primary industry is the first type of industry. The second type of industry is secondary industry. All those material that is produced or that is extracted by the primary industry are used by the secondary industry for the further improvement to make the finished products. Now, the secondary industry can further be divided into various types of industry. First is manufacturing industry. As its name suggests, manufacturing means producing and processing the goods which are being provided by the primary industry. We can classify the manufacturing industry into various ways. First is analytical industry, second is synthetical industry, third is processing industry and fourth is assembling industry. Now, let us understand the meaning of this one by one. First is analytical industry. Under analytical industry, we break the raw material into various kinds of product. For example, the petroleum is divided into crude oil or in petrol and in other forms. Now, the second is synthetical industry. Under synthetical industry, different raw materials are used to make the one product. For example, soap industry. The third is processing industry. Under processing industry, we process the raw material to make the finished goods. For example, textile industry. And the fourth one is assembling industry. Under this industry, we assemble the different parts and make a new product like cycle industry. Now, the second type of secondary industry is construction industry. What is construction industry? As its name suggests, construction industries are engaged in the construction of roads, dams, bridges, etc. These types of industry require special skills like special engineering skills and technical knowledge so that they can be used for the further improvement or infrastructure development of the country. Now, the third industry is tertiary industry. Tertiary industry are basically service industry. Tertiary sector provide the basis or help to the primary and secondary industry. It is same or more or less similar to the auxiliaries to trade, which we will discuss later on. Tertiary industry consists various types of sector like transportation, banking, insurance, warehousing and communication. All these are very necessary for the working of primary and secondary industry. So, this was about the types of industry and various kind of industry which comes under primary, secondary and tertiary industry. The another classification of business activity is commerce. What is commerce? Commerce includes all those activities which are basically connected with the moving of goods from the producer to the ultimate consumers. So, commerce can be divided into two ways. First is trade and the second is auxiliaries to trade. Now, let us understand the meaning of trade. Trade is basically connected with buying and selling of goods and services. We can say trade is the nucleus of commerce. All activities of commerce are revolves around the trade. Then trade can also be classified into two ways. First is internal trade and the second is external trade. What is internal trade? When buying and selling are done within the geographical boundaries of the nation, then we can call it internal trade. Now, what is external trade? When we buy or sell the goods and services outside the boundaries of the nation, then we call it is external trade. Then again, internal trade has its two types, wholesale trade and retail trade. What is wholesale trade? Wholesalers are those middlemen who directly purchase goods from the producers. They normally buy goods in bulk, but they do not directly deal with the consumers. And the second one is retail trade. Who are retailers? Retailers are the middlemen who buy goods from the middlemen or wholesaler and then sell directly to the consumers. Now, we move to the classification of external trade. External trade can be divided into three ways. First is import, second is export and third is entrepot. What is import? When we buy goods from the other nation, then that is called import. What is export? When we sell goods to the another country, then it is called export. And third one is entrepot. What is entrepot? Entrepot is a combination of import and export. When we buy goods from another nation and sell these goods to the another, then it is called entrepot. So, entrepot is the combination of both import and export. This was about the trade. Now let us move to the auxiliaries to trade. What is auxiliaries to trade? Auxiliaries to trade are those activities which facilitate or which help in the movement of goods and services from the producer to the seller. Without these activities, business cannot be done smoothly. So, the first type of auxiliaries to trade is insurance. As we know, business is full of risk. So, it is the insurance which help the businessman to face this kind of risk, because there are different kinds of risk involved in the business like theft, fire, etc. Now, the second one is banking industry. What is banking? As we know, to buy the goods and services or to purchase assets or to make day-to-day expenses, every business require money or funds. The second auxiliaries to trade is banking. As we know that for every day-to-day activity or to buy asset or to buy goods, a businessman needs money, and from where we can arrange this money? It is through banking sector only. So, banking sector helps to remove the obstacle of finance. The third one is transportation. No business can be performed, no goods or services can be sold without the help of transportation, because through the channel of distribution from the producer to the consumer, we need transportation to move goods from producer to wholesaler, then wholesaler to retailer, and then retailer to consumers. This way transportation removes the hindrance of place. And the fourth one is warehousing. We know whatever is produced cannot be sold immediately. So, every businessman require the godowns or warehouses to keep the goods until they are sold in the market. So, these auxiliaries to trade are very important, and it helps in the smooth flow of selling goods and services to the consumers. So, this was about the classification of business activity. Now, let us move to the next topic, that is business risk. What is business risk? The term business risk refers to the possibility of inadequate profits or even losses due to the uncertainty or unexpected events. Business risk can be of two types. First is speculative risk and second one is pure risk. Under speculative risk, there is chances of profits or less profits or even losses, but under pure risk, there will always be losses. Now, let us move to the next topic, that is nature of business risk. The first feature or nature of business risk is business risk arises due to uncertainty. Everyone knows that future is uncertain. No one can predict beforehand that what is going to happen in the future. So, same is the case of business. So, business risk arises due to uncertainty. The second one is risk is an essential part of every businessman. No business can be done without facing risk, because risk is an essential element. Every businessman has to face risk in the business, like there can be different kind of risk, like risk of fire, risk by theft, natural calamity, anything. The fourth one is degree of risk depends mainly upon the nature and size of business. For example, if the business is large, there will be more degree of risk as compared to the small business, as well as it also depends upon the nature of the business. If you are doing the business on which technology change frequently, then you have to face more degree of risk or otherwise less degree of risk. The fourth characteristic of business risk is profit is the reward of risk taking, which is very true, because no risk, no profit. Businessman has to keep in his mind that risk is always present in the business, so he has to futuristic, he has to be forward looking so that he can face the risk and earn the profit in such a situation. Now, the last topic is causes of business risk. There are different causes of business risk, like first one is natural causes. Natural calamity can happen at any time, like flood, earthquake. This type of risk cannot be predicted beforehand. The second one is human causes. Human causes are such type of risk which arises due to dishonesty of the human being, like strikes, lockouts. This type of risk also can arise any time. The third risk is economic causes. Demand can be changed anytime, fashion can be changed anytime, political party or political policy can also be changed anytime. So, there is economic cause is always present in the business. And the last is other causes. All those causes which are not present in the above can come under this category, like if there is power failure or burst down of boiler. So, this type of risk are always present in the business. So, today we have completed this chapter. In previous class also we have discussed few topics, and today we have discussed the classification of business activity into industry and commerce, then further classification into primary, secondary and tertiary, and the commerce, trade and auxiliaries to trade. Then we move to the business risk and causes of business risk. This was about the chapter. So, we have completed the chapter 1 of class 11th, that is nature and purpose of business. That is all. Thank you very much.